So, The Sheep Detectives is a 2026 mystery comedy feature starring a bunch of sheep, of course, who are all tragically CGI. I wish they had been real sheep, but I think that would have been messy. Film centers around George, a farmer, sheep farmer specifically, played by Hugh Jackman, who lives in the English countryside, tends to his flock, lives in a little RV, loves his life, reads whodunit mysteries to his flock every night, even though he knows he can't understand them, although it turns out secretly they can. And they are learning how to solve a whodunit mystery. And unexpectedly, one morning, they find out that their farmer, George, the shepherd, has passed away. He's died. And it seems like everything's laced up and it's natural causes until Lily, the smartest of the sheep, voiced by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, figures out that it's not so. And something's wrong with George and the shepherd. And this whole thing smells of something's afoot. So she teams up with some of the other sheep. We get some supporting actors and actresses there. Bryan Cranston is one of the sheep. Patrick Stewart, Chris O'Dowd from the IT Crowd, if you remember that show. Rhys Darby is a sheep. Along with some locals and a bumbling police officer played by Nicholas Braun. And we have a whodunit. Who can solve the mystery of the dead shepherd and hopefully save the flock from outright devastation? Big supporting cast, big ideas, and executive produced by Chris Miller and Phil Lord, who we just talked about with Project Hail Mary. That is The Sheep Detectives. Andy, what'd you think?
So I've heard a lot of buzz about this too. It's done really well. It's made 120 million globally for this fun little film. It's funny to say, I think this was a little overhyped for me because I had heard that it was really good. And I think it is a good film. I think this is a great film for people who don't go to the movies very often. You need something to take grandma to. You need something to take your 10-year-old or your 8-year-old who's never been to the movies before. Safe, fun film, but it does a good job of, it's the whodunit genre, and it does a good job of explaining that, in a whodunit, this happens. We have a crime, we have a motive, we have suspects. And so the movie's instructing you how to watch it as you're watching it, which I think is really good for young viewers. And it's funny, it's sweet. It also gets surprisingly serious at parts. There's a part where Bryan Cranston's doing his backstory, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I was forced to fight in Sheep Fight Club in this carnival, and they're slaughtering sheep next door at the sheep holocaust is going on in the field next." So it just jumps tonally sometimes, but we have a star-studded cast as well that I wanted to read off. Hugh Jackman, of course, Brett Goldstein. Most of these are voices. Patrick Stewart, Regina Hall, Bella Ramsey, Chris O'Dowd, Rhys Darby, Bryan Cranston, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Nicholas Galitzine get some time in there, Hong Chow. So it's like a who's who. Emma Thompson doing a great British bit as she's prone to do. So it's an all-star cast both behind the mic and on screen. So it's a charming, fun little film. It's not quite the masterpiece that I had heard, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think Sheep Detectives is a little bit about seeing the bigger potential in others, whether that be the bigger potential for a scandal or maybe the bigger potential in character and what a person or a sheep could be capable of in the future. It turns out George has a bit more than just being a shepherd. He actually has an inheritance, $30 million, believe it or not, because he invented and patented a special medicine for sheep. That comes up in the film. It's very relevant. It's the blue kind of paste stuff that you see on Hugh Jackman's hands. And that inheritance is kind of the lead-in for our whodunit, right? Who murdered the shepherd? There's a few suspects around town. They all kind of look very almost like dollhouse figurines. They're very particular and have their own silhouettes. Here we have our goofy police officer played by Nicholas Braun. We have our out-of-town reporter who's just looking for a good story so he can finally get his break in reporting, and Nicholas Galitzine, hot off the set of He-Man. They try so hard to hide his arms in this. It's great.
Yeah,
he wears this big bummy coat. It's really funny. Keep an eye out for Nicholas Galitzine in this movie. Emma Thompson shows up as this delightful purple-clad lawyer.
Like Clue.
Yes, yeah. You get all your people, right? So you got to solve this thing, and you're in this wonderful English countryside town that feels right out of Edgar Wright's Hot Fuzz. The same sort of setup is Nicholas Angel arriving in. I can't even remember the town they're in that movie. And you get all these little people, these little brownstone cottages and beautiful fields rolling off in the end. It's funny because it has to do all of that and also be a kind of compelling whodunit, and then also take the perspective of sheep. Got to do both. It has to be a heavy CGI animated feature. And so they got the perfect guy to make this movie. His name is, I got it right here, Kyle Balda, who I don't know, but he is an Illumination director from Illumination Studios. He did a few of those Despicable Me movies. He did a few of those Minion movies. He's kind of a kingmaker over there. He's kind of a really big deal. He makes a lot of money for Illumination. A lot of their hits have come from this guy. So he took a break from those films to come over here and do this, which is where we have all of our sheep, right? These CGI heavy characters and our big voice cast, who are all really tremendous. It's got to do both things. It's based on a German book. I think it does a pretty good job of handling it, but it does end up feeling like, I don't know, I was hoping for some big emotional exposition or something really meaningful or like a great twist in the mystery. And I feel like it does all of those parts like lukewarm. Like they're all good. Few of them are great. There are some really tremendous emotional moments in there for sure. There are a couple of like big turns in the mystery, but like at some point you realize it's a lot of like sheep standing outside of windows listening and then going back to the flock and be like, you're not going to believe what I heard. And like, okay, like it can only go so far. Like it has to remain grounded in reality while also being a talking sheep movie. And I think that stuff ends up not working too good. What does end up working is it ends up being kind of this fun, low stakes romp at the movies. And that's what I felt like I heard people telling me about this movie, that like, oh, it's just fun because it's like how movies used to be. You know what I mean? It's not some big franchise feature. It's not some great sequel. You don't need homework. It doesn't have a $300 million budget. It doesn't come with a popcorn bucket. It's just this soft, almost like a rom-com movie that came out. And like in a space where there have been so few of these, somehow Sheep Detectives ends up finding $120 million success, which is kind of tremendous. And I think speaks a lot to the industry.
Right. It's got a lot going for it for, like I said, people don't go to the movies a lot. The plot is fairly straightforward, but it's also pretty interesting. And like I said, I really appreciate it. And again, this is written by Craig Mason, who wrote The Last of Us and has done a lot of that kind of... he's written a lot of really popular things, so I was kind of surprised that he's the main person who adapted it. Yeah, it's really funny. It's really cute. We have a lot of our personalities in our sheep who they have very distinct looks and voices. That's definitely where they put the money for this stuff. So you have a lot of just memorable stuff, and it's a PG film, so there's no violence, there's no like sensuality. So it's safe for everyone. I think that's the biggest appeal, is that you're not going to offend anyone. And it still manages to kind of touch on some heavy topics. There's this thing that the sheeps do where they're like, oh, this thing is unpleasant. I don't want to remember it anymore. And they all decide to just count down and they forget whatever just happened. And eventually they realize that they can't keep doing that, that you have to sit there and learn to deal with like difficult situations and feelings and work through them. And I was like, that's actually a profound lesson to be teaching young people, young viewers. So it still has some kind of more grown-up elements as well.
Yeah, the death stuff is earnest in a way that like I think really does tug at the heartstrings. The way that they just forget death every time it comes around because like, well, it's painful and hard, so I just don't want to do it. And slowly it's like, hey, that's how growth happens. Like that's how you grow and change, and that's necessary and important, and that's how you control where you're headed. And like that stuff's really tough and it's challenging. It's stuff you don't want to look at, but that's how you get there. And like that's one of a few emotional messages in this movie. Yeah, immaculate vibes. It's green and it's sunny and it's the countryside and everything's good, dog. There's a couple of little dour parts in there, but otherwise like very nice. You could have a copy of Sheep Detectives on DVD in the waiting room at a hospital or in like the nursery, like where all the parents are waiting to pick their kids up, and it would run for both audiences. You could run this for children. You could run this for senior citizens. It offends nobody. For anybody out there who's like, I don't want my movies to have a message. Good news. Like Sheep Detectives is pretty soft. It doesn't have any political leanings either way. Like it doesn't ruffle any feathers. It's pretty good all around. And I think it's impressive when a movie can do that and even have Andy and I saying, hey, pretty solid effort. I think Phil Lord and Chris Miller picked a solid script here, like to get behind. I think it's odd and it's strange that a movie like this kind of gets made now, because they just don't make movies like this anymore. There used to be 40 of these a year. Like in the 80s and 90s, like these were earnest swings at like what might work at the box office. You know what I mean? Is scripts just like this. And now these just don't get produced. So stuff like this and Hail Mary, even like Spider-Verse and Lego Movie are the kind of projects that those two want to be involved in. They seem to have a very particular sense of taste for what may and may not work. And this like kind of lands not necessarily alongside those, but I get why they're in the same bucket. Like I see why they wanted to get behind this, and you can see the talent behind it too. That like clearly a lot of people got a paycheck, but also I think maybe earnestly believed in what Sheep Detectives is doing. So, without running out of things to say, any other thoughts, recommendations, Sandy?
I think I'm ready.
Andy, would you recommend the Sheep Detectives?
Yeah, overall, like I said, it's streaming right now. It was in theaters recently. It's a sweet little movie. A whodunit that's PG-13 that has fun animal characters and human characters. Stay fun for the whole family. Take the kids, take your parents, take your grandparents. A good introduction for younger viewers who, if you're looking for something a little bit that's not just like the Minions or a kiddie film that requires a little bit more paying attention, but isn't too dangerous or anything like that. So perfect for streaming.
Yeah, a big recommendation for me. It's on Prime Video. You can watch it with any Amazon Prime subscription. A big shout out to everybody who encouraged us to watch this movie. We had a lot of people reach out. They were like, hey, have you covered it on the pod yet? Have you guys done it on Off Script? Thank you for listening. Thank you for encouraging. Thank you for sharing movies you like with us, because we get to look at them and talk about them and share them with other people through this little thing we're doing. So thank you. I really appreciate it. Sheep Detectives is a solid watch. Really enjoyed it. Check it out on Prime Video. It's available right now. And that is Off Script episode 343. Good Lord. Next week, I'm going to be honest, I'm traveling. I'm sorry. We're going to take a week off. But we're coming back so hot on July 21st. What do we got, Andy?
We're going to be taking a look at Evil Dead Burn, the latest in the Evil Dead franchise. And also, of course, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, which we are seeing at 7:45 in the morning because we got IMAX 70mm tickets for that Saturday of that weekend.